This story begins in Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Evan Miller. I am 31 years old. At the time this happened, I worked remotely as a customer support supervisor for a logistics company. Nothing unusual. No criminal history. No mental health diagnosis. No medication. What I am about to describe happened over the course of 26 days. I am writing this because leaving that place did not end it. It only changed the way it stays with you. I found the apartment at night. I wasn't even looking seriously. I had been scrolling rental listings out of habit, the same way people scroll social media when they don't want to think. 1-bedroom units, average prices, identical photos. Then one listing kept reappearing. Same address, same photos, same price. The rent was almost half of what similar apartments cost in the area. Not suspiciously cheap in an obvious way, just enough to feel wrong if you thought about it too long. The description was short. Urgent. No agents. Long-term preferred. No emotional language. No promises. No urgency beyond that single word. I messaged the number. The reply came less than a minute later. The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Harper. She didn't ask about my job, my credit score, or how long I planned to stay. She only asked one thing: when can you move in? I said I could come see the place the next afternoon. That would be fine, she replied. No smiley faces. No follow-ups. She was already waiting when I arrived. Middle-aged, clean coat, neutral expression. She didn't shake my hand. She just unlocked the door and stepped aside, as if I didn't need a tour. Inside, the apartment was quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Not soundproof quiet. It felt unused, like a room that had been holding its breath. Everything was clean, functional, normal. No smell. No personal items. The windows faced an inner courtyard that looked empty, almost unfinished. No cars. No people. No movement. Has anyone lived here recently? I asked. Yes, she said. As with any apartment. I didn't press her. The paperwork was simple. Too simple. I paid the deposit, signed the lease, and received the keys. As she left, she said something that stuck with me only later. If you need anything, she said, the apartment will adjust. She did not smile. The first night was the best sleep I'd had in months. No racing thoughts. No waking up suddenly. I slept straight through until morning, waking up naturally without an alarm. The temperature was perfect. The lighting felt soft, even though it was cloudy outside. The shower water was exactly right the moment I turned it on. Over the next few days, the apartment began to feel accommodating. Lights came on gradually when I entered a room. Doors never slammed. There were no random noises, no pipes, no distant neighbors, no street sounds. I stopped going out. Not because I decided to, it just happened. Groceries were delivered. Work was remote. Friends' messages went unanswered longer than usual. Whenever I thought about leaving, I felt a vague discomfort. Not fear. More like the sense that I had forgotten something important. Something that needed to be handled before I could go. About a week in, I noticed the space felt smaller. Not measurably, not obviously, just closer. The bathroom door seemed nearer to the kitchen. The hallway felt shorter. I measured the walls with a tape measure. The numbers were normal, but standing inside the rooms felt different, compressed. I started hearing a sound at night. It wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. It was rhythmic, even, like breathing. The sound came from everywhere or nowhere. It didn't disturb my sleep. If anything, it made me feel calm. That should have scared me. Didn't. On the 10th day, I decided to leave. Not permanently, just to prove I could. I packed a small bag. Laptop. Charger. Clothes. I booked a cheap motel 2 towns over. Nothing dramatic. When I opened the front door, I froze. The hallway outside my apartment was shorter. There was no other way to describe it. The distance to the stairwell had changed. The angle felt wrong, like a space edited incorrectly. I stepped out anyway. The building was silent. No footsteps. No voices. No doors opening or closing. I walked down the stairs and exited the building. Outside, something felt off. The street was there. Cars passed. People moved. But everything felt distant, like watching a recording rather than being present. I walked for 3 blocks before the anxiety hit. Not panic, not fear, an overwhelming sense of misplacement, like I had stepped away from something that needed me. I turned around without thinking and walked back. The relief I felt when I unlocked my apartment door was immediate and intense. That was the first moment I understood something was wrong. That night, the sound changed. The breathing was closer, slower. I spoke out loud for the first time. "I'm leaving tomorrow," I said. The apartment responded. The lights dimmed slightly, not off, just lower. The temperature adjusted. Warmer, more enveloping. The sound deepened. I realized then that the apartment wasn't reacting to my presence. It was reacting to my intent. Over the next few days, leaving became harder. Not physically. The door still opened. The lock worked. The keys were normal. But every attempt came with consequences. If I packed bags, the rooms felt tighter. If I stood near the door too long, the air felt heavier. If I slept away from the bedroom, the temperature dropped sharply. Once, I woke up on the couch to find the bedroom door closed. I had not closed it. On day 17, I tried to leave for real. I loaded everything into my car. I locked the apartment behind me and drove. 5 minutes later, I couldn't remember where I was going. 10 minutes later, I couldn't remember why I was leaving. By the time I pulled over, my chest hurt from the pressure. Not emotional, but physical, like something inside me was misaligned. I went back. When I entered the apartment, the sound stopped. The silence felt like approval. That was when it became clear. The apartment was not trapping me. It wasn't locking doors. It wasn't threatening me. It wasn't forcing anything. It was making itself the safest option. It adjusted to my needs, reduced my anxiety, removed friction. It didn't keep people inside. It made sure they didn't want to leave. And once you stayed long enough, leaving stopped being a choice you could clearly remember making. That night, I stood in the center of the living room and said, "What happens to the others?" The walls seemed closer than ever. The sound returned, slow, deep, steady. I understood without being told. The apartment doesn't need tenants. It needs presence, and it keeps what settles in fully. I stopped trying to fight it after that. Not because I accepted what was happening, but because resistance no longer produced clear thoughts. Every attempt to act against the apartment came with a cost. Not punishment, not pain, something worse, confusion. Simple decisions became exhausting. Packing a bag took hours. Standing in the doorway made my head feel heavy, like gravity had changed direction. Staying, on the other hand, felt effortless. The apartment rewarded stillness. I began noticing the building more. Not actively, just incidentally. People appeared where I didn't remember seeing them before. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just present, like furniture I had forgotten was there. A man sitting on the stairs, staring at the wall. A woman standing by the mailboxes, holding envelopes she never opened. Someone behind a door, breathing in the same slow rhythm I heard at night. None of them acknowledged me unless I spoke first. When they did respond, it was always delayed, as if they needed a moment to remember how conversation worked. "How long have you lived here?" I asked one of them. He frowned. "I moved in," he said. "Then it got easier." That was the full answer. I called my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks. I didn't realize how long it had been until the call connected, and she said my name like she wasn't sure it still belonged to me. "You don't sound right," she said. I told her I was tired. I told her work was stressful. I told her I might come visit soon. As I spoke, the apartment adjusted. The lights softened. The temperature warmed. The pressure in my chest eased. When I mentioned leaving, the line crackled. "What address are you at?" she asked. I looked around the room. For a moment, I couldn't remember. That night, I found something on my kitchen table. It wasn't there before. A single sheet of paper. No logo, no letteread, no envelope. Just text. Occupancy status. Stabilizing. Below it was a list. External contact reduced. a movement minimized, resistance declining, adjustment successful. At the bottom, long-term presence recommended. I stood there for a long time waiting for fear. It didn't come. What I felt instead was relief, the kind you feel when a decision has already been made for you. I tried one last time to help someone else leave. The woman from the mailboxes. She looked younger than the others, less settled. I told her I was leaving and asked if she wanted to come with me. She blinked slowly. "Why would I do that?" she asked. "So you don't disappear," I said. She smiled, not warmly, not cruelly, genuinely. "I already stopped," she said. The realization didn't hit all at once. Came in fragments. The apartment didn't choose people randomly. It didn't target weakness. It waited for absence. People without deadlines, without dependence, without someone who would immediately notice they were gone. The apartment didn't take them. It accepted them. And the building wasn't unique. I noticed it when I searched the address online. Different cities, different names, identical listings. Urgent. No agents. Long-term preferred. I left on the 26th day. Not because the apartment let me go, but because something outside demanded me strongly enough to cut through the comfort. I won't describe how I did it. What matters is this. Leaving didn't break the connection. It weakened it. I still feel it when rooms are too quiet, when decisions feel heavy, when staying seems easier than going. Sometimes, when I'm exhausted, I catch myself thinking, it would be nice to be adjusted again. That's how it stays with you, not as fear, as an option. Part 4. After adjustment. I don't live there anymore. I want to be clear about that because people always ask the wrong question first. They ask where the apartment was. They ask how I escaped. They ask whether it followed me. None of that matters. What matters is what stayed after. For the first few months, I told myself I was fine. I moved into a new place, a normal one, higher rent, paperwork, neighbors who argued loudly and slammed doors, pipes that rattled at night, light switches that turned on instantly instead of gradually. All the things that prove a place isn't thinking about you. I went back to the office. I reconnected with people. I started answering messages the same day they were sent. From the outside, it looked like recovery. From the inside, it felt like friction. I didn't miss the apartment. I missed how easy everything was, how decisions didn't require effort, how stillness was rewarded, how nothing demanded urgency. In my new place, silence felt empty instead of supportive. Darkness didn't feel intentional. Comfort didn't arrive unless I actively created it. I had to choose things again, and I realized how much I had forgotten how to do that. About 6 months later, I found the listing again. Different city, different photos, same wording. Urgent. No agents. Long-term preferred. I didn't click it, but I stared at it longer than I should have. I started noticing patterns. People who burned out quietly. People who stopped responding gradually, not suddenly. People whose lives didn't collapse, they just slowed. When someone disappeared now, I didn't think something happened. I thought something accommodated them. I never told anyone the full story. Not my sister, not my friends, not a doctor, because there's nothing to diagnose. The apartment didn't break me. It showed me an alternative, a version of existence without resistance, without pressure, without movement. And once you know that version exists, it never fully leaves your awareness. Sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, I feel it again. That sensation of a room being just warm enough, quiet enough, smaller than it should be, a space where staying is easier than leaving. And the most disturbing part is this. It never feels like temptation. It feels like relief. I don't think the apartment is malicious. I don't think it's alive in the way people imagine. I think it's a solution for a specific kind of person, at a specific moment, when absence outweighs attachment. If you're listening to this and wondering whether you'd recognize it, you wouldn't, because it doesn't arrive as fear. It arrives as comfort. And by the time you realize what it's offering, you're no longer asking how to leave. You're asking whether you still need to. That's the last thing I remember thinking before I closed the listing, before I stood up, before I chose deliberately to keep living in places that resist me. Not because it's better, but because resistance, I've learned, is proof that I'm still here,